Hello everyone, this is teacher Rejil. In this video, we are going to address the competency, describe principal roots, and tell whether they are rational or irrational. First, we are going to name the parts of a radical. This one here is the radical symbol, and this letter A, which is under the radical symbol, is called radicand. And this small letter N at the upper left of the radical symbol is the index. Now, if the index is 2, we call it square root. If the index is 3, we call it cube root. If the index is 4, fourth root. And if the index is n, nth root. A square root of a given number is a number whose square is the given number. In order for us to understand this line, okay, we will illustrate it. If a squared equals b, then the square root of b equals 8. And to make it clearer, we are going to use numbers. Since 2 to the power of 2 equals 4, this means the square root of 4 is 2. And if we are going to change this 2 here to a negative 2, okay, so we have negative 2 squared, it still gives us positive 4. So this means one of the square roots of 4 is negative 2. Now, to make things clearer, we are going to use these numbers in our example number 1 problem. Okay? Solve a squared equals 4. Give the principal root and tell whether rational or irrational. So when we are going to solve a squared equals 4, meaning to say we are going to find the values of a that will satisfy the equation. Now the first step you are going to do is find, okay, the square root of both sides. Okay, so since we already know that a number has 2 square roots, one is positive and one is negative, so we can write a equals the positive and negative square root of 4. And of course here the values of a are 2 and negative 2. And this positive number 2 is our principal root. And of course it is rational. Let's do another example. Solve a to the power of 4 equals 625. Give the principal root and tell whether rational or irrational. Now, to get rid of 4, we are going to find the fourth root of both sides. And since we know that there are 2 fourth roots, one is positive and one is negative, so we can write a equals positive and negative fourth root of 625. Now, the values of a are 5 and negative 5. And this positive 5 here is our principal root, and of course it's rational. Now let's talk about cube root. The cube root of a given number is the number whose cube is the given number. Okay? To understand this line, we will have to illustrate it. Okay. If x cubed equals y, then the cube root of y equals x. To make it clearer, we will use numbers. Since 2 to the power of 3 equals 8, so this means the cube root of 8 is 2. And if we are going to change this 2 here to a negative 2, we have negative 2 to the power of 3 equals negative 8. So this means that the cube root of negative 8 equals negative 2. So what have we noticed here? If the index is 3 or an odd number and the radicand is positive, our root is positive. And if our radicand is negative, our root is also negative. Now let's do example number 3. This time cube root. Okay, about cube root. Okay, x to the power of 3 equals negative 64. Now we are solving for x. Okay, to get rid of this power 3 here, we are going to find the cube root of both sides. And from here, okay, from our illustrations, we see that if the index is odd, or 3 specifically, there is only one root. So this means we can write x equals the cube root of negative 64, and there is only one, and that's negative 4. And this negative 4 here is what we call the principal root as well, and of course it's rational. Example number 4. Solve x squared equals 48. Give the principal root and tell whether rational or irrational. Again, to get rid of the square here, we find, okay, the square root of both sides, and of course there are 2 square roots, one, okay, positive and one negative. So we can write x equals positive and negative square root of 48, and we can factor 48, okay, to become 16 times 3. And of course the square root of 16 is 4, so we have now x equals the positive and negative 4 square root of 3. And the values of x here are 4 square root of 3 and negative 4 square root of 3. And this 4 square root of 3, which is positive, is the principal square root. And of course it is irrational. Irrational because we still have a radical here. Now we have this conclusion. If the index is even, there are 2 roots. Okay, the positive root is called the principal root. If the index is odd, there is only one root, and it is the principal root. Okay, number 3, roots under the radical symbol are of course irrational, otherwise rational. Now I prepared here 4 items for you to work on. Okay, solve the following. Give the principal roots and tell whether rational or irrational. You can pause the video and try working on these 4 items. If you are done, I can now show you the answer. For item number 1, the principal root is 5 and it is rational. Number 2, the principal root is 3 and it is rational. Number 3, the principal root is negative 2 and it is rational. And number 4, the principal root is 12 square root of 3 and it is irrational. Did you get the 4 items right? I hope you did. Thanks for watching, guys. This is Teacher Rejil. Keep safe.